Today's daf and Makos is daf Tes Zayin, and we're middle of the sugya of Machlekes Rabbi Yochanan Shlokish. First, we open up Rabbi Yochanan saying that even though we have a concept called lav hanitig lasei, that if a lav is amended by a say, you don't get 39 lashes. But if the asay is kodma lav, if you can fulfill the asay before the lav, then there's no nitik lasei. The asay is not there to remedy the lav, and you will get malchus. You will get lashes. And for example, shaluch hakan. You have to send away the mother before you take the children. So I say is not a remedy if you did take the children, but you still have a mitzvah of shalech to shalach away the shoe away the mother. So there is an example where I say is before the law. The next thing is we learned a machlekes between the Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan based on another machlekes of theirs and based on a chakir and acharonim, and that basically is whether you have to be according to Rish Lakish. Okay, you did a law, you have to menatik lasa, you have to fix it up, but straight away. He holds kaimu v'loy kaimu. He said that you have to be mekayim it straight away, whether only once Bezin gave you instructions or whether as soon as you did that but you have to do it straight away. If you don't, then you're liable to lashes. According to Rabbi Yochanan, as long as you're able to amend it, even though you didn't, you have a lifetime. Until you mevatel it. When you are mevatel the asay, that's when you get malchus, because you can no longer do the asay. So we're up to the Gemara now, middle of the page of Tezayin Amar Aleph, the first wide line, second wide line. Amar Rabbi Yochanan said. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Ein lanu, we don't have elazois v'oidachedes. Only have two cases where you can be that you'll get malchus, even though there's a lav and an asay, because you canceled the asay. Once you canceled the asay, shluch hakan, how did you cancel the asay? You killed the mother. If you killed the mother bird, how can you ever? Yeah. So then you'll get malchus. He said there's only that and one other case of bittul. That's what I was going to discuss now. Says the Gemara, that's Rabbi Yochanan knew what's this other case. Go find it yourself. Do some homework. I have to do everything for spoon feed you completely. It's enough to bring the horse to the water. Nothing went out. Doki searched. Ashkach, and he found the following. Tanya, we just had this yesterday. Oh no, let's say a person was honest, a girl, right? He raped a girl, and besides the monetary punishment, he also, it says she has to marry her if she so wants. He has to marry her. What happens if he divorced her? So we said, if he's a kohen, he can never take her back. He'll get lashes. If he's Yisro, who is able to take her back, it's a lav hanitig lasei, and you don't get lashes. You don't get lashes. Now look, if it's Yid, he can take it back. But ain't like it. You don't get malchus. When do you have to take it back? It's a lifetime. Somebody has a lifetime. And we said yesterday, because kol yamav means gives you a lifetime that you can fix it up. Now, the imkainu like bein machzer. So Hanicha, if you learn simply Lemanda Tanu, the Yisrael who does not get Malchus, why? Is the Lavning will say Kaimu v'loy Kaimu. In other words, he has to do it straight away. Okay. Elamanda Tanu Bitla. The one who says that this he says that you don't get Malchus unless you cancel it. In other words, unless you destroy that possibility to do that. Say is Bishle Megabi Shluchakam Mishkachaslam. So Rabbi wanted to say this case of Einus as well. That you can as long as it's a lav Israel says as long as it's around, but if you mevatel it, it's no longer able to do an assay. We're going to analyze how will you mevatel the possibility of marrying this woman. You have to mevatel it. So we can find you kill the mother bird. Elo Einus. I don't see, says the Gemara, a possibility in this case of owners that you canceled the assay of marrying her. Remember, you have to mevatel it. If she dies on her own and you can no longer marry her, that's not called bitlu. You didn't do anything; it happened. The circumstances changed. Bitlu means that you mevatel it. No, how can you mevatel it? That's not that you did. Now we have an assay to take her back. But if you're mevatel that assay, how? We'll get to that in a minute. So first Gemara says very simple. Like you read all these books. Kill her. If you killed her, you can mevatel and you mevatel it. If you can tell me the easiest remedy, just go ahead and kill her. So then you're going to get misa for murder. And even if there were no hasra, we have chayav misa, no shaygin. But exactly. So therefore, there's no malchus. You don't give misa malchus. Now this caused a big controversy in the Rishonim. Common Rabbanah is only if it happened in tandem. What are you getting the malchus for? For divorcing her. Right? You're getting the malchus for divorcing her. That happened, whatever, a month ago. Now you killed her. Where's the common Rabbanah here? So it must be. No, you're over a month ago. It said lo yuchel l'shalcha. That's a lav. That's a lav. For that year malchus. Now he killed her. Oh, so therefore they want to learn. Yeah. So when are you over? When are you over for that lav? Not then. When you killed her, you moved the asay, then you're over lav. The problem is Rashi, yesterday's Gemara, along Rashi, clearly spelled out when the Gemara says it's totally in Hasra Sofik. So Rashi says, even according to Rabbi Yochanan, where does Hasra Sofik come in? Give Hasra a minute before you cancel the asay. Right before you kill the wife. You give Hasra, you're going to kill your wife. So, whatever. You can also be able to yuchel kasha. So Rashi says you're over the lav as soon as you get malchus as soon as you did your aveda, and that's why it's called asra sofik, because who knows if it'll be about to, let's say, tomorrow. So Rashi clearly goes out of his way to say that the dafka get your malchus at the time of the lav, the chiv malchus. So where's the common rabbinay? Unless you're going to say somehow or another it starts. What Rashi means is it starts then, but it doesn't get completed that Veda until you mevatel dasei. So as far as Kamad Rabbinay is concerned, it's good enough. It's good enough. And as far as Sarasafik, it still comes under Sarasafik because when the Veda started, you didn't know will it turn into an Veda or not. Because if you could do that, say, I mean that's how it's going like Rashi. That's a Chakira Ray, the Mashal, the Ksos, and all that, which we talked about the first day we learned Gemara here. But even so, whichever way you learn, the Gemara is learning that you're getting both punishments today when you kill her. So that's not an option. Okay. So he was actively involved in getting her married to somebody else. And once she married somebody else, he cannot take her back. But he had to be involved. He had to be involved. So Gemara says, what do you mean he's involved? How was he involved? I don't understand. Or Rabbi Yehuda, or Rabbi Lazar. If she said to him, do me a favor, find me a shidduch, so he was actually involved, so she was complicit. But Lacy Leash is only an Aveda if she wants to marry you, you don't. But if she doesn't want to marry you, but she told you, find me another guy, then where's Aveda here? Then she's Mavatlet. She's the one who took away the Aveda. And or she's Mavatlet, say at least. If he just went and foisted it on her own, what kind of condition is that? Because he decided that she should marry that guy, and therefore what? Nothing happened. So how in the world can he be mevatel the mitzvah asay of a loisin lisha? The loy klumi. And if I tell you, if she died on her own, it's nothing. Tracy, that's a question. Interesting. Tracy, that's a question. Okay, she didn't die on her own. What if he killed the b'shegig? If you kill the b'shegig, there's you can say that it's not a common rabbi and all that. The truth of the matter is we learned before Chayav Mizah Shegin, you're still positive another thing. But Machlik is Chizki Rabbi Yechon. But we're going to Rabbi Yechon here, who holds that Chayav Mizah Shegin, you do say common rabbi. Sorry, you don't say common rabbi. No, so here's a case where he can cancel the thing, but b'shegig. So Taisa says that if you kill someone b'shegig, it's as if you didn't cancel it, happen by itself. Because we learned before Inu Liyada, the Abish that makes it happen because he has his whole cheshbon. So you're just a puppet in this case, or two. Exactly. I'll tell you, like you just said a minute ago, you made a neder b'rabim. If you made a neder b'rabim, you cannot, whether you can cancel or not, and you cannot cancel it. And we'll follow the Tana that says you cannot cancel it, and therefore he's mevatel. Now, why a neder b'rabim can cancel is because a neder b'rabim has a much stronger force than a stama neder, and Mimela, because it's much stronger, the Vitva learns throughout here, because it's much stronger, therefore you can't mevatel it. Or why did you make the neder b'rabim? It's a private thing. Why did you make b'rabim? It's as if you're saying, I want you all to agree with me, which means that if you want a mevatel, you need their haskama, which is nigh impossible to get all these people. You can't break it. What am I going to say then? So he answered the medila al das rabbi. In other words, it's machlekes showing, but it has to be b'rabim as well, or just even not berabim? Just al dasam. You're saying I'm doing it because the haskam of the public or the people in our community, whatever. And then again, either because that's even a stronger net that everyone agrees you cannot be battled, no machlekes, or how are you going to get the haskama from everybody? That's how we cancel it. Remember, there was what we're bringing about and to what's shot. You'll see the Gemara. Unfortunately, what's shot. You'll see the minute. But Su Leka said the Gemara. Now, no other. He'll come back to this. That's what I'm in a minute. The Gemara. The Su Leka. There's no more. But Ika Gezel. What about stealing? You stole an object and then you destroy it. There's no Das Rabbim here. Gezel. There's a famous. Everyone has a question. What about Chametz and Pesach? The mitzvah of burning it. What happens if you throw it in the ocean? So you can't be fulfilling it. Tashbisa, the machlekes is showing whether Pesach is lav and he'll say not. So Pesach says in the Chavtes and others showing that the lav is of lo yirav lo, and the asay is Tashbisa. And any time during Pesach, it's a lav hanitik lasay. Says Pesach klar by pointing the lav hanitik lasay. So l'chayre you mevatel the asay there, you throw in the water. So the simple answer is, according to Chachamim, that goof is mekayim tashbisu, and that looks like Chachamim. Therefore, or even according to Rabbi Yehuda, Rashi shita is that achaz man biyuda. The once it's past chatzos, and now it's Yom Tov already. What do? Even Rabbi Yehuda's meida has bosase b'chol dom. So therefore, whatever you do to it, you can eat it. You can eat it. But we had also in the Gemara then the famous shita about Balamoy that if you're eating chametz, you're being mekayim a mitzvah of tashbisu. You became a mitzvah tashbisa as well. So therefore, then das shivd. So therefore, there's no way mavatl it because you're doing that. Whatever you're doing, that is the mitzvah. That is the mitzvah. Sorry.
It's constantly mitzvah.
What about noiser? Okay, what about noiser? The mitzvah is to burn it, right? That's what I say. The classical example I can say is noiser, burn it. What happens instead of burning it? Throw it in the ocean. You didn't burn it. Okay, mavatl say. Very obvious. The answer is even though you're mavatla say, but it's a lav shem ma'is. So anyway, you don't get malchus. Or the other opinion we had is hasra suffix, because by the time of the lav, remember you need a hasra. How do you know you don't have leftover? When I warn you to make sure you have no leftover, I know you'll have no leftover. No hasra suffix. And according to the Shlakish, leish masra. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you don't get malchus lava. So even though you can mavatl it, you still need to get malchus. All we do is we bring it back to the lav. But if the lav doesn't warrant malchus, then there's no malchus. So we're looking for other cases. Why do you say only this in one other case? You said it's Shulchan, and we still and we said in the case of Oinus, if you make a neder. What about you stealing and you destroy the object? What if you destroy the xela? You can't give it back. Or mashkin. You shouldn't take it. If you did take, you got to bring it back to the night, and you destroyed it. You can't do it. And also bitle, for sure. But even bitle, I destroy the object. I destroy the mashkin. Says the Gemara, you still owe the money. If you don't have the original object, you pay the money. You pay money in lieu. So therefore, the chiyuv is still there. That's a summer shem. The chiyuv is still there, and therefore it's you mevatel lasei. Mevatel lasei means that's it. You cannot fulfill the mitzvah of a heishet exel, but you could. You give money in lieu of the object that you took. So therefore, the chiyuv is still there. Cases brings the other Rishonim to learn that's a case of kamla medrabane of malchus and mammon, and we have a rule ein loikinu mishalmi. Anyway, maskiv lo Rab Zayda ha'ika mashkana shegen. What about you took the mashkin of a get? You're telling me what I have a chiyuv to who? A get has no family, so therefore I was mevatel my chiyuv by me destroying the mashkin, and I can no longer pay it out to anybody. I cannot fulfill the mitzvah because what I did. That's a case of bittul. Ha'ika mashkana shoged, the meisa get died. So he answered, you're chayiv. You still owe the money, but you have no one to pay it to. So even though you're a goyrim, but you wouldn't have vatul dasei. Dasei is still there in theory, exactly. But to who? There's no beneficiary. But Gemara asks, okay, we're going to go for it because Rabbi Yechon says only one other case which Rabbi Loza came to a conclusion. What about other ones? But you can pay her. The Gemara says there's a chalapas. Don't cut out the corner, give it to the poor. The mishkachas and you fight the kaima with bittle. And l'chayda, you can cancel it. How do you cancel it? Because every stage of the way, if you forgot to give pay, you still have to give pay to the poor people. You cancel it. If you turn it into flour, the moment you took your wheat stalks and you ground it, you made a shini. And once you make a change, it's no longer belongs to the poor, belongs to me. I was mevatel that say I should get malchus. It says like and I did. I used the whole field. So here's another case. Why do you say there's no other cases of canceling a mitzvah? That's the most question. Now we learned mitzvahs pay while it's growing. When you cut out the cheese, when you pile it up, before you smooth it out. Once is you're already maruach, you have a chiva ma'aser. It's not fair because the poor person is potter from ma'aser. So first you give the ma'aser, and then you distribute to the poor, so they shouldn't lose out. But once you go past that stage, you turn the flour. That's it. You're mevatel. That's the most question. Answer the Gemara because Rabbi Yochanan held like Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel holds even if you turn into flour, you still have to give pay. It never ends. You can never be mevatel. Let's say. Why did we ask over here? Whatever you ate it. You ate the whole thing. Then you were mevatel it. I'm not sure. Rabbi Shmuel, Nami Mishkach we also find the Ochal is here right here. He ate it up. Because the Gemara itself says, sorry. Rabbi Shmuel says that even according to Rabbi Shmuel that says that it goes on and on and on, you can eat the Isa. So the most question is, what are you telling me a story? That there's only one other case. I have another case. Paya. In a case where, according to everybody, if you ate the paya instead of giving it to the poor, that's it. You can no longer mekayim dasei. So here's another case of bitli. What are you telling me? There's only two cases. We found you had the case of oinus. We made a neder, and here you have another case. So the Gemara, you're right. You're right. This is the second case. Paya. No, what about what we said about oinus? So look what the Gemara says here. Even if a neder das rabbi, I will oinus loy the heicham beninin das rabbi in lefor the davar shus. In other words, you think that everybody's going to agree to change, that to give you a Pesach or a Charata? Lav dafka. That's why Neder Shehuda Al Das Rabim you cannot cancel. But Lidvar Mitzvah, where if you're doing it for a mitzvah, like over here by Oinus, the mitzvah is to take her back as a wife. If you're doing it as a mitzvah, then everyone will agree. Of course, you should do it. Yeshla Hafara. So what happens? You make a Neder Das Rabim, but then when you're in that new situation, suddenly you realize there's a cheshbon here, and it didn't have to happen yet. Then it comes out from it it's not so strong anymore. We'll give an example. How do market that? There was a teacher, the Havi Pasha Beinuka. There was a teacher, the Machlek Showing what exactly means Pasha Beinuka. But he didn't do the right thing by Inuka either. Didn't teach them well. Rashi says he beat them up. But the others are showing him say that that's not part. Yeah, that's right. Too much. Yeah, exactly. A glat is all right. But others trying to learn that the Pasha Binuka means that he didn't come to class on time, didn't do negligent. Adi Rabacha said that he'll never teach again in any of our schools. And Rabacha did Ravina. And Ravina put him back, because there's nobody as good as him. So Rashi's shot is very similar to what Hannibal Abbas did. The teacher was very, very strict, but at the end of the day, he was the best teacher. He taught them how to read and how to live. Everything says about Yoav, how he made him miscalculated in Zohar, Zeichet, by Amalek. Anyway, let's go back to the it says the mission. Another thing is you get Malkus. Very interesting. This piece will go. What does that mean? According to Rashi, means you ate a worm in the cabbage. You ate a worm in the cabbage, and therefore you get Malkus. So everybody the Shainim will ask, what's Chiddush and Rashi? That's what Shratzimah. You get a Malkus. So some want to say that sheretz grows from the fruit itself, right? You have a fruit that grows, we say that bacteria is not a problem. But by a kruv, because it grew in the kruv, while it's attached to the ground, not when it was separated, when it's attached to the ground, that is a chiddush. You'll be over a lot. Even though it's spontaneous growth, it came from the cabbage itself, but the cabbage was growing. But Taisa says, remember Rashi in Rashi in this response. Rashi says here that by fish, if it was in the water, it has scales, and when you goes out of the water, it loses scales, like sturgeon or whatever, it's kosher. Taisa says exactly the opposite. Taisa says here, you know what a binisa is? A benisa is a fish, a little fish. Now, while it's in the water, it has scales. When you take it out, it has no scales. And the chiddush here is that it's not kosher. Okay, eat it in the water. That's right. While still alive. Oh, you have to kill it in the water somehow. Okay. So anyway, further. Somebody ate it, and Rabbi Yehuda carried out. Interesting that the Gemara has to bring a proof that he actually believed in what he said, and he gave him Malchus. Now this is a bubble and everything else, but he gave him. He had before the Sanhedrin no hegis bein ba'odid bein chutzlaretz, and they gave him Malchus. Omar Abai, Ochal putisa, one of these fish insects. Loika abo, you get 4 Malchus. What do you get 4 Malchus? 2 for sheretz hamayim. There's 2 lavin sheretz hamayim, and 2 lavin stam sheretz. It doesn't limit to a mayim or oret. So you had 2 creepy crawlies or whatever it is in the water, and 2 stam. You shouldn't need these things. What about in the mola? If you had a worm, which is on the ground, is like a chumash. If it's sheretz or oret, you get 3 for that. 3 from Sukkot says that, and 2 for stam sheretz. Tzira, a bee or a wasp or whatever they translate hornet. Loika, you get malchus sheish 6, because in addition, sheretz oif. You get sheretz oris, 3 for sheretz oris, because it goes in the ground as well. You get 3 for sheretz oris, 2 for sheretz, and 1 for being an oif. Omar Abachayi said, Hamash es nekobov. If somebody holds himself back from going to the bathroom, oiva mishul l'shaksu. Your oiva lois l'shaksu. A big machleik is showing you whether it's mahatoyim midrabanan. And what's the difference? The difference here is what happens. You really have this urge to go to the bathroom, but the only place is in public, and it's covered abrius. Does it override the covered abrius? If it's mahatoyim the isla shaksu, then that's it. The covered abrius goes out the window. But if it's only the rabbanon, sorry, if it's only rabbanon, then covered abrius usurps the rabbanon. We had in bracha there, that's because usurps the rabbanon, and you don't go in public. Sorry? I was going to say, what has this to do with the outside? But Tashakchu, we're talking here about shekets. And this is one of the things from that passage. You learn about the Tashakchu. You shouldn't turn yourself. We shouldn't eat these things because it makes you a shekets. Disgusting, yeah. Another example is somebody drinks, they have a special kind of a keli, a vessel to put in the blood that comes when you do hakazim, when you extract blood from people. If you drink that keli, it's mis. Robert Abuna said, Risik Tishin Molim, you ground up 9 worms. The heavy echad chai, and you brought, now we said before, for worms you get 5 lavin. You get 5 lavin. Why? You get 3 for it crawls on the ground, and 2 for stam sheretz. So it's a total of 5. But the heavy echad chai, if you add another one, which is going to Rashi, alive, the shlim lekazais. Now you add them all up together, become the 9 worms and this one. Like vav, you'll get another laveda. What laveda is it? Hey mishum beria ve'echad mishum gazais nevela. 5 of them because you ate whatever. Discuss all that. And I say 5 of the namola you ate. It was a live namola worm. So therefore, the 3 of the orets. Once you ground it up, you don't get it, and it's less than the kazais, you don't get the avedas of the shaksu. So therefore, you get, but you ate this live one, that's in the mola. We don't care what size it is, so you're getting the 5 avedas in the mola. Taisa says chai does not mean live. Chai means sholem, complete. First one, Taisa, it means complete, because what's the relevance of alive? In fact, there's no avail if it's alive. So you have to kill it, nobody swallow it. So why did it have to be alive in the first place? So he says it's shalom if complete. And then you combine them all, you have exais. So Tzitz asks an interesting question. Tzitz says, what do you need to have a live one for? Just get enough crushed up in the mullahs that equal a kazayis, and you'll have a kazayis nevela. Or at least sorry. Because you don't have a kazayis. Sorry. Why do you need the live one for the 5? Because you don't have the shear. So when you get a whole kazayis of crushed up in the molim, you ate shiratzim. You ate it. So what do I need a live one to combine? So Taisus is mechadish here. When do we apply the shear of a kazayis? Only if it's the Torah says don't use the words lois seichel. Don't eat. So then we say the shir kazayis. By shrotzim it says bal teshaksu, right? Don't think it is grace. How much? No, but we don't know. We don't know how much it should be, and therefore maybe it's not a kazayis. Maybe it's more, and that's why you don't get malchus for that. Okay. Tesh already asked, how do you add nevela to these? It's already a sheretz. Is there nevela, is nevela on a sheretz? How can you add compound yisurim? So Tesh wants to learn that this whole Gemara goes according to the opinion that says isur chal al isur. Then Rabbi Yechon, I feel the shnayim behu. You don't need 9, even if there were 2 crushed ones, and this live one, this could just hold one. So you have the shir of ice. But Rabbi Yechon, I feel the echadu, even one dead, crushed one. But like please arguing, giving us a different example, how big that crushed one was. Okay, then the Mishnah continues. If he ate tevel, he ate ma'aserishin. Tevel means toivloi. You didn't yet give off the tithes that you had to give. You didn't give the truma for the kohen, or you didn't give the ma'aser. And the ma'aser, now truma, if you don't give the truma to kohen, you chay misa. If you in the ma'aser that you give to a Levi, there's also truma in there because the Levi has to give 10% down to the kohen, chay misa. What about you didn't give ma'aser ani? You didn't give ma'aser ani, which was the 30 and 60 year. You didn't distribute that. Is that tevel considered tevel or not? Amar Abba says, you get malchus. You do get malchus. In other words, it's still tevel. Even though, what happens to ma'aser? You separate it, and anybody can eat it. There's nothing holy about it. There's no chiva misa. Still, if you don't separate it, that whole tool that you have is considered tevel. You're not allowed to eat it. I would have thought, when is it tevel only if you didn't give truma? Let's say you gave truma g'dola for the kohen, but you did not set aside the ma'aser which also has truma in it. Or ma'aser better yet, you did ma'aser but you did not do ma'aser sheni, which at least you have to bring to the shalayim. There's some kedusha in the food. But for the ma'aser ani, there's no kedusha at all. You can eat it anywhere you want, and you just give it to anybody can eat it. Is minayin, how do you know it's still called tevel if you didn't set it aside? You cannot eat it in your gates, and then it says the next passage, you'll eat it in your gates and you'll be full, and that's to my ma'aser. Set it aside, give it to those who can eat it in your territory. Afkan ma'aser ani. Over here also, you do not eat it to all your things, it's to my ma'aser ani. So according to this, you get it's tevel. It's tevel if you did not set aside your ma'aser ani. So the Gemara, and if you ate it, you get malchus. Rabbi Yosef Ketanoi. Actually, it's machlekes Tanoim. Rabbi Lezer says, "Ain't tzarich likra," says Hashem. Rabbi Lezer says, you went and you bought from the dinner if you buy from an Amoritz. Truma we know that they gave because they don't chay misa, but everything else we're choishes that maybe they didn't set it aside. Roiv Amoratzim ma'asin. The majority do give misa, but a few don't. So where machmer you buy from Amoritz, you have to set aside we'll do all these other ones. So you have to set aside the ma'aser for the Levi, ma'aser sheni. Now, what about ma'aser ani? This is a machlekes. Ma'aser ani, if you bought from an amorit, you have to set it aside or not. Rabbi Lezer says, "Ain't tzadich likra Hashem." There's 2 parts. There's 2 parts in Face No Yehuda in Shuvah. There's basically Gemara says there are 2 parts in Truma. You first have Russia, you set it aside. And then the sinner, you got to give it. It could be that 2 brachas, in fact, one for the hafrish and one to give it to a thing. And according to Neidim Yehuda, he wants to be mechadish. When do you say chita achas poteres zakeri is might be hafrosha? Because we have another Gemara that says ain't a sinner pachim mekazayis. The sinner sounds like double chashuv, passive from hand to hand. And yet hafrosha we say chita achas poteres zakeri. So he says there's 2 parts. As far as hafrosha is concerned, you give the smallest, the nominal amount, you're mafresh. And what does that do? It allows you to eat the tzur. It's no longer tevel. But now you have an obligation to give it to somebody. It's a separate mitzvah. And there you have rules, how much you have to listen to if it has to be double chashuv. So, Rabbi Lezer says, you don't have to kodesh Hashem, which means you don't even have to do hafrosha. Al ma'aser ani shel ma. You don't have to do hafrosha at all. Nothing. In other words, it's not really tevel. Who cares? So since most Amalatzin give anyway, do set aside all the mice, only a few don't. And you allowed to eat the tzvur because mice not giving mice on it does not make it tevel. I don't believe it's tevel, and therefore don't do anything. However, Chachamim say kodesh Hashem. You have to do the part of kodesh Hashem, but you don't have to give it to anybody. The ma'aser because which poor person come and collect it from you? Who do you owe it to? So there's no taivus. Mamash ain't like taivus. Nobody collects it from. So what's the machlekes? The Chachamim say you do have to set it aside. Why? Because the chamol is still tevel. So you set it aside. My lab hakim ifli. Masav about it toivle. Masav about it toivle. What was that? That a mice only. That's the machlekes. Homle Abai says it doesn't make sense. If that's the machlekes, why talk about whether you have to you bought from Amoris? Talk about generally. If you have every year you give all your mice, you did not distribute mice only. Are you allowed to eat from that food before you set aside the mice only? Is it tevel or not? Every surely everyone agrees that definitely if you did not give Maisa Oni is Tevel. And if you eat it, you get Malchus. Big Machek is a shaynim, do you also get Misa? But if you eat Tevel, you get Misa B'dei Shemaim. You ate Truma before you set aside, when you didn't set aside Truma or the Maisa. What about you did not set aside Maisa Oni? The Gemara says now, Abai says, everyone holds you get Malchus. But do you get Misa as well? The Ram holds you Chai. It's Tevel. Tevel is Tevel. Others say no, it's only tevel as far as malchus is concerned, but it's not really. There's no kedusha in that food. See, truma, everything else has kedusha in it. Even ma'aser sheni, you got to bring it to the shalayim. Ma'aser only has no kedusha in it, so there's no misa. Anyway, this is the argument. The argument is one that says the ma'aser only amratza don't mind giving, because what do they do with it? Nothing. They keep it anyway. So it's a big deal. Ma'aser sheni, you got to schlep to the shalayim. So some people don't want to do it. Give them money who afrush mafrish. So it's money, and even my physician has to give it away. He's not so happy about giving things away. But when it comes to Meiser Ani, all it is an obligation of money. There's no kedusha in it. It's a money obligation. I think he does, and he keeps it. He doesn't mind keeping it, not giving it out. So that's why, and Abban hold, keeping the tzricheli milsalin mafrish, that he won't be bothering doing. That's why you have to mafrish, because it's a bother. He still has to do something. It's a bother. Okay, I guess we'll stop over here. We'll see you tomorrow.